Hello and welcome to another four-legged episode of Saved by the 90s. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today is a friend to all creatures, great and small, Mr. Ken Bakley. Hey, Ken.
Hello.
The 90s had its fair share of dog movies, and this month we're going to be taking a look at 4 popular pup movies. And we're going to do things a little bit out of order. Normally we do every movie in chronological order, but this month we're going to change that up a bit, and I think you'll see why as we move through these. So the first movie that we're going to be talking about this month is Beethoven. You knew that it was going to be on this list. You knew it.
Yeah.
So this movie is directed by Brian Levant. Came out in 1992. Did I already mention that?
No.
I don't think so. I have a synopsis here. A slobbering St. Bernard becomes the center of attention for a loving family, but must contend with a dog-napping veterinarian and his henchmen. So, Ken, I guess we'll start with you. What did you think about Beethoven? Is this a first-time watch?
This is a first-time watch. All of these except one are a first-time watch. I suppose I should also admit at the start that I didn't grow up with a dog ever in our house, so...
I did want to talk about that and get your backstory with dogs.
I'm not against dogs in any sense, but I just don't have that personal connection. I mean, there were dogs in my extended family, but none in my house.
Okay. So you're not against dogs. You didn't grow up with them, so maybe you don't have a strong connection to dogs. But it seems like you don't have a problem with them.
No.
Okay. It's kind of... So I did grow up with dogs. We always had a dog. Big dog family. I have 2 dogs now. So, yeah. Huge dog lover. More so than cats. Not a big cat fan. But I don't have a problem with them either. I think similarly to how you feel about dogs. So what were your initial impressions of Beethoven?
The first thing I want to point out is that this is our third movie on the show directed by Brian Levant.
Yeah, well, he was a I guess a big 90s kids family movie type of guy.
Yeah, Brian Levant also brought us The Flintstones and Jingle All the Way.
Wonderful.
Brian Levant also directed The Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas, but that came out in 2000.
I think I did. Did I? Yeah, I think when we did The Flintstones, I did watch Viva Rock Vegas because I had never seen it, and I remember it being such a nightmare. But he also did Problem Child too, which we haven't talked about on the show, but I will 100% be getting into Problem Child at some point because I loved that movie as a kid.
The predecessor, the original Problem Child, was released in 1990.
Yeah, so we definitely have to talk about Problem Child at some point. Now, I kind of cut you off before getting your thoughts on Beethoven.
This is an aggressively okay movie. For the most part, but I don't want to just say that because, like with many of the movies we're going to talk about today, that would overly smooth out the edges of talking about this movie, and the edges of these movies are usually crazy.
Yeah. They have that 90s kids movie DNA in them where when you watch it in 2023 as an adult, you're just like, what were they thinking with this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think pretty much all of the movies that we're talking about, I mean, I don't know about the second one, maybe, I don't know. But they all have elements in them where you're just like, what is this about?
I also want to take a moment to single out the absolutely wild supporting cast.
Oh yeah.
For Beethoven, the antagonistic veterinarian played by the prolific
Dean Jones.
Dean Jones, and the henchman played by Oliver Platt and Stanley Tucci.
And then you had the like business executive
Yes.
people played by David Duchovny and Patricia Heaton.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely an interesting supporting cast here. David Duchovny played Brad.
Also, you have Charles Grodin as the father, just doing like great, like just he's great in this, but he's also in a different movie for most of it.
Yeah.
Like it's a much more down to earth kind of uh family comedy, like or a comedy about a family that he's in, versus what the rest of the movie is, which is just a movie that is prone to occasional but not constant like leaps into absurd physical comedy, but it doesn't quite figure out exactly where it's landing on that balance.
And I think that can be said about pretty much all the movies we're going to be discussing, where like a lot of them are pretty much grounded, and then you have these like little things here and there that like elevate them into absurdity. Like there's just certain elements, some of them even very small, like the fact, so this, the way that Beethoven starts out is he's a puppy and he's in this like, it's like a lab, it's like a, he was stolen from a pet shop and he was going to be taken into this like lab where I guess they do different experiments on dogs. I don't know what kind of company this is, but in one of the scenes, they want them to try out new bullets by shooting dogs with them. And this is kind of a through line with all of these movies where you're just like, really? Like, that's what you... Like, you couldn't come up with a less violent thing? You had to go with, like, oh, they want the dogs to test, like, chemicals and bullets and stuff on them and, like, poisons. It's just weird. So anyway, he escapes with the help of this Jack Russell friend of his, and ends up finding this family. And it's so funny because Charles Grodin, like, he hates this dog. He thinks that this dog is a complete menace, and at one point he says that the dog ruined his life. But at that point, it's like, what did this dog do to you, man? Like, other than being a dog. It's not like Problem Child, where the kid is just a nightmare and every scene is the kid doing something horrible. Like, the Beethoven was just a regular dog for the most part. You know, he's big, but I never really... I didn't feel like there was any kind of, like, justification to Charles Grodin being so awful. in Other than, you know, for him to come back around by the end, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There are some fun, like, kind of set piece moments here. They did a decent job with, because, like, there's some, like, kind of physical things that need to take place with Beethoven, and they used a suit, a person in a suit, for at least some of it, which I thought was really funny. There's this one scene where the daughter, so they're being babysat, and the young daughter she's playing outside and she falls into the pool, and Beethoven comes and rescues her. And in that scene, it's very clearly a man in a Saint Bernard suit doggy paddling in the water, and it's just so funny to think about just some dude in a Beethoven costume doggy paddling around a pool.
Other fun facts about this movie include that it was co-written by John Hughes using a pseudonym.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but his actual name is not on it. Yeah, but this is also the exact kind of movie where we think about like all the stuff that he directed, but he was a very prolific writer, but a very prolific writer of specific kinds of movies. And this completely tracks as something that you would find out that he wrote.
Oh, yeah.
It's not his best work, but...
No. But I'm also wondering, like, if maybe the original script was different in some way. Maybe it was more...
Well, his name's not... Well, he took his name off it, so...
Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe it was, like, more adult or something, you know, more akin to like a National Lampoon movie, but just like with a crazy dog giving Charles Grodin a hard time with life.
Mm.
But then they like maybe made it more kid friendly or something. It's not a particularly good movie, but it's also pretty inoffensive too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bonnie Hunt is in this and playing the mom. I think she's really good in this. There's this really great scene when David Duchovny, Patricia Heaton, they come over to their house for like a barbecue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because Charles Grodin runs an air freshener company, and he's trying to like cut a deal with these people, and they're just so awful. And there's this one scene where Bonnie Hunt's like, "Let me get you some lemonade," and she goes and grabs the lemonade and drinks it and spits it back into the glass and gives it to him. And it's just this like little one-off thing, but I thought it was so funny.
It does. I mean, that feels like a very Hughesian moment, but only because I'm thinking about, like, say, if you think about the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character in Christmas Vacation and her husband
Todd.
Yeah,
Margot and Todd, I think their names were.
Yeah, it's very much in the Hughes line of treating yuppies not merely as villains but as comical annoyances.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that scene was also involved, I guess, one of like the highlights of the movie for a lot of kids, where like Beethoven seems to deliberately like kind of wrap his leash around them and like drag them off, because the thing about Beethoven is that he's like hyper intelligent, and he somehow knew that these two people were gonna be like ripping off Charles Grodin. In addition, he also stops a bunch of bullies for the one kid and helps the older daughter like get a date. He's just doing good. Beethoven's just out there just doing good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the other thing, you know, with all of these movies, you have the dogs that are like just hyper intelligent for the most part.
Mm-hmm. This was as we were discussing offline, this was the first in a surprisingly large number of Beethoven movies.
Yes, I believe there were, what was it, how many of them? 9? Or 8? 8 of them?
8 or something like that.
Yeah, I think there was 8 Beethoven movies total.
There's Beethoven, and then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But then there are 3 after that, so 8 in total, but they are not.
Yeah, and it was like,
symphony style namings.
Yeah, it was like there was like a Christmas one and like a vacation one. Now Beethoven's second, I think, had this family. I think everybody came back for Beethoven's second, if I'm not mistaken. But then,
well, that's theatrical, and then the other ones.
Yeah. I saw both Beethoven movies in the theater actually, and then starting with Beethoven's third, that's when they switch it up, and it's like a completely different family. According to the synopsis for Beethoven's third, the Newton family from the first 2 Beethoven movies is on vacation in Europe, but they do plan to attend a Newton family reunion, and to make sure one of their family members definitely makes it, they ship him to travel to there with George's brother Richard. That's word for word what IMDb says.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also terrific because this is bizarrely conversational as far as IMDb synopses go, which is my favorite kind of. Listeners, I want to make sure that what Adam read was only the first 3 lines of this.
Yeah, it wasn't the whole thing.
7-line summary. 8 line? I don't know. It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. Guess which one it was? That's right, Beethoven.
He follows Richard and his family as they hit the road to California in a huge, shiny, and expensive RV equipped with a DVD player.
Oh.
Following them are 2 bumbling crooks who have hidden some secret codes on a DVD that they figure no one in the world will buy, but someone does, Richard. So now they have a DVD holding top secret information, and the crooks must get it back.
Wow. Okay.
It's giving grade school book report level synopsis there.
Yeah, yeah. That one features Judge Reinhold and Julia Sweeney, so
Yeah.
there you have that. Yeah, I did not see Beethoven's Third. I vaguely remember the second one, barely at all, but I remembered like not liking it nearly as much. I think they add a second dog, like a wife for Beethoven in the second one, and then I think there's like puppies with that one too. It's an okay movie. The weird thing is, like, I just don't feel like there was enough here to like justify all of the conflict that's in the movie. Like, there's just not really, like, everything's conflated in it, and it's like, why is Charles Grodin like losing his mind over a dog just being a dog? There is a great appearance of the Power Glove in this, though. There's a scene when the kids are playing Super Mario Brothers 3, and one of the kids is wearing a Power Glove. So
I know that. Yes.
You have that in there. Anything else you want to add about Beethoven?
Can't think of much else to add, honestly.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't hate revisiting this. I certainly liked it way more as a kid. I'll tell you that. I really liked the Beethoven movies when I was young. They definitely don't hold up the same way as an adult. I will tell you that. All right, our next title is Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. This came out in 1993. Directed by Dwayne Dunham. I have a synopsis here. A fun-loving American bulldog pup, a hilarious Himalayan cat, and a wise old golden retriever embark on a long trek through the rugged wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains in a quest to reach home and their beloved owners. This features the voices of Michael J. Fox and Sally Field and
Don Amici.
Don Amici, yeah.
Yeah. One of Don Amici's last credits.
Yeah, I think they did a sequel. I think there is a sequel to this, and they all came back except for him, but because he passed away. Anyway, so this is a remake of the Disney movie from I think it was 1963 or something like that. Now, maybe I saw the original one. I don't think so. Do you know if in the original one they have voices, if they can talk in the original one? Because I would bet no.
Some of the very cursory research I did on the other movie seems to suggest that they don't.
Okay. So that's the problem with Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, at least for me.
Yes.
Is that they talk, and it's annoying, and I don't like it. And I don't like hearing them talk. It's like Look Who's Talking, or whatever the third one was, where the dogs and cats are talking. Look Who's Talking Now.
Yeah,
but not only do they talk, but they really they're not funny, and it's really grating and annoying, and they all bothered me. Even Don Amici's character. His voice just bothered me. Everything about it was just very annoying.
I think Roger Ebert had a observation when he was writing about one of those movies where they have babies made to look like they're talking. That also applies here. There's just a live action movie where you have someone or some being who cannot talking with adult voice and vocabulary is just it is so uncanny valley, for lack of a better term. It just can't work.
And So they must have been like talking through telepathy or something because
Yeah, because
they were having
they're not, their mouths aren't moving.
yeah, they're having full on conversations with each other, interspecies conversations too.
Yes, the cats and dogs are freely communicating.
And but their mouths aren't moving. This is, pre when they started making the mouths move with CG, which in a lot of ways is worse.
Oh, exactly.
It's worse than this.
Uh-huh.
But like but the other thing is they don't understand people. So they can talk to each other, but there are several instances in this movie cuz first of all, if they understood people, then they would know that their family didn't leave them, that they just went away for a short period of time. So they can't understand people, and yet they can understand each other, and they talk English, and they have full on telepathic conversations with each other. It's just annoying. And the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, this movie would be pretty entertaining if they didn't talk. Like if Disney had the chutzpah to make this movie where there wasn't dialogue with the dogs and cat.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked out a lot better because it's pretty impressive what they were able to get out of these, animal performers. Like there's some pretty impressive stuff here, but I feel like it's all undermined by the dumb dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop thinking about what it was like to shoot this movie. Like, it must have been just, I don't know, like to shoot and then to edit this movie. It just seems like it must have been such a bizarre undertaking.
It almost, they probably shot it like it was a nature film or something. Is the only thing I can imagine, because they've done that before with like nature documentaries where they kind of they shoot it and then they kind of edit it together like it's a narrative.
Yeah, if anything, this is within the pantheon of those movies rather than on the same lines of something like the Beethoven.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of shots of just nature, like waterfalls and forests, that I feel like that are certainly nice to look at, but also feel like, trying to obscure the fact that there's only so much footage you can have on screen of the animals doing what you need them to do.
Right.
And even that, without credits, this movie's, I think, 79 minutes long.
Yeah, and not a lot.
Which is the correct length of time for this movie, mind you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot going on in this movie. I mean, it's mostly watching two dogs and a cat walking through the forest, pretty much. There's a perilous like river scene where they fall into a river, and that leads to an interesting scene where there's this guy who he's like out fishing or something, and he sees the cat, and the cat looks dead, and he goes over and he's like, "Where'd you come from?" And he picks it up, and the cat is not dead; it's very much alive, and he goes, "You're alive?" And I was thinking to myself, did you think it was dead? And if so, why did you go over and just pick up a dead animal off the side of the river there? Like, what were you going to do? Were you going to eat it?
It's the only thing, like that's the thing about this movie. That's what really kind of tips it into Uncanny Valley territory, is that the feelings and the actions and the emotions of the animals are so much more recognizable on a human level than anything a human does in this movie.
Yeah. Which again, I think is like you could apply to all of the movies that we discuss. Like the bad guys, not in this movie specifically, but like the bad people are so bad in all of these other movies where they just don't even bat an eye at just murdering dogs. Like there's so many characters in these four movies that we're going to discuss where they're just it almost seems like they're gleefully willing to just murder dogs.
Yes I do like how in one of them, and the one we'll get to, there's even a conversation where the bad guys are talking to each other about how they're bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say that again, yeah, good animal performances. There's like a scene where, but also like I have to wonder with all of these movies too, but this one especially because it seemed like this one was more like perilous than the others as far as like the situations that they put the animals in. Like you had to wonder like were these animals being treated okay? Like
You do wonder.
I'm sure they say they are, and I'm sure that they had trainers and stuff on set, but
I did wonder about that. I think there are shots where the animals look most clearly to be in danger, where you can kind of look at it, or maybe this is just me projecting, and it does not look like an actual animal.
yeah. I noticed that in this one, but there's like some other scenes where the animals get hurt and stuff, and you're just like, I don't know, man. That did look like the porcupine scene. Well, obviously the quills when he gets stuck with the quills, that's not real.
No.
But there's the scene when maybe it was the way they shot it, where it looked like something hurt him, not necessarily a porcupine, but like the way he kind of recoiled and like jumped back. But maybe he just got, I don't know. Maybe they just shot it in such a way that made it look that way.
I mean, I was also breaking down kind of that one scene where the cat is falling into the water. There's and kind of like towards like a rushing waterfall, and there's a couple of shots of the cat, clearly an actual cat in water, but in water that's not really moving very much, and all shots of the cat in actual moving water are clearly not a real cat.
Yeah. I did notice that like all of those like rushing water scenes they were using like fake animals and stuff. I mean, hopefully there was no. I mean, I didn't watch the credits, but I'm sure that it would say at the end if there were any issues. I mean, like I'm sure that with all four of these movies, they did everything because these are bigger budget, like bigger movies, and I'm sure that they did everything to keep the dogs or animals from being harmed. But at the same time, you watch some of these and you're just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like maybe the animal wasn't hurt, but it certainly seemed like it was not having a good time in some of these scenes.
No,
but it just
then again, are any animals that have to have to deal with all this having a good time?
True.
I mean, on a certain level, I think there's even like isn't there like a John Mulaney bit or something about like being a horse in a movie or something? Like the horse and Seabiscuit, and the horse and Seabiscuit obviously is just not engaging with it on the level that any human actor ever would. Like an obvious fact that is just like that's just how you think about animals in movies after that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the production, the actual crew of this movie, because I thought this was very interesting. I pointed this out to you. This movie is directed by Dwayne Dunham, who is a prolific director, but also really known as an editor as well. And if you look through his editing filmography, it's pretty interesting. He was one of he was on the editorial crew of the first two Star Wars movies and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was a credited co-editor of Return of the Jedi, and then he's had basically, I think, like a 30-plus year ongoing collaboration with David Lynch. He edited Blue Velvet and Wild at Heart. He edited and directed a few episodes of Twin Peaks, the original seasons, and he edited all 18 episodes of Twin Peaks: The Return.
But he also edited Cherry 2000 from 1987. So
and then I found out that the editor on Homeward Bound, Jonathan P. Shaw, appears to have been, I guess, on Dwayne Dunham's editorial crew for a while, worked with him for a while, like an editor on a bunch of Twin Peaks and like an assistant editor on Blue Velvet. So there's some David Lynch veterans deeply involved with the making of Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey.
Well, it does make sense when you think about it, like if you were looking to make this movie and you were looking for a director, I think that someone who has a lot of strong experience with editing, I think would be someone who you would want involved with this movie, just because I feel like the editing, this movie's like 90% editing.
This movie is the case study for movies are made in the editing bay.
Yeah. So I think it was probably a good pick to get him involved.
Mm.
Well, at the end of the day, I thought that this movie was fine. It's just the voices. It's just the dialogue that really made me want to turn it off.
Yeah, and there's nothing that could have been done about that. Like, they're fine performances, but there's just nothing that could have been done about it. I remember seeing this movie maybe in school, but definitely a lot on, at least parts of it, a lot on TV when I was a little kid. And I remember liking it, and I just remember liking things that are clearly not part of this movie, like even more so than usual. Just my memory of it did not correspond to what was on screen at all. I even remembered the score having a lot more, I don't know, bigger, more expressive, more colorful cues, and it really doesn't.
Yeah, I don't even remember the score, actually.
Yeah, like it's just complete wallpaper of music. I remember there being these huge orchestral kind of moments and cues to it, and there really isn't.
Maybe you were thinking of The Adventures of Milo and Otis, which is another classic animal adventure movie. I liked this one as a kid too, but I guess I was just okay with the voices and stuff. Maybe I thought it was like Goofy or something back then when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I remember seeing this, and this specifically on like the Disney Channel a bunch.
Yeah,
and I apparently don't remember it very well. Fun fact: it came out 30 years ago this month from when we're recording.
Wow!
And you'll hear this February 3rd, 1993.
How about that?
And I'm assuming that it came out on a Friday, as movies tend to do. And this past February 3rd was a Friday, so we're also on the same calendar this year that it's 1993.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, 30 years. I feel incredibly old now.
Oh, I'm wrong. February 3rd, 1993 was a Wednesday. I don't know why it was released on a Wednesday, but it was.
Oh, because movies were weird back then. All right, let's move on. Talk about our third feature, Air Bud. That's right. We're going to be talking about Air Bud from 1997. I have a synopsis here. An unexpected player joins the school basketball team, a circus dog who escaped from a cruel master. This is directed by Charles Martin Smith. Based on the character Air Bud by David DeCicco. David DeCicco. Probably mispronounced that.
What's going on?
The character of Air Bud. This is based on a book, I believe.
Oh.
And the book was about his dog, like his
dog played basketball.
His real life dog who he taught sports. So, yeah, Air Bud, true story. Air Bud is a true story, folks.
Oh.
This is the first time I've seen Air Bud. Obviously, I'm very familiar with the Air Bud series along with the Air Bud extended universe through endless commercials and trailers and all of that stuff. But when this movie came out, I was like 13, I think. And by that point, no way I was going to be seeing Air Bud because it looked horrible, if I'm going to be honest. And you know, it was bad. This is a bad movie, but the interesting thing is it's not exactly, if you haven't seen any of the Air Bud movies, and this is the only one I've seen, so I can't speak to the other ones, but for the most part, it's just a normal movie about a kid who like has no friends, he gets made fun of a lot, and he finds this stray dog, and he befriends the dog. And this kid is like really into basketball because his dad was, and his dad passed away. And he practices basketball with this dog that he finds. And so like 95% of the movie is just a normal like family comedy. And then it's the very end where you start getting like the craziness where they ask Air Bud to be on the basketball team. Like that's it's a perfectly normal movie for the most part until the very end, and then it completely goes off the rails.
And how wonderful it is that it does.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, because it's pretty boring for the most part because it's all like just paint by numbers. I guess maybe with the exception of Michael Jeter's character, who's like this awful clown, and I guess he was Air Bud's former owner. And yeah, at the end when they're like, we're down a player, who can we get? Air Bud. And like I love the scene when they're like, look in the rules. It doesn't say anywhere in the rules that a dog can't play. And they're like, you know what? You're right. It doesn't say anywhere in the rules that a dog can't play.
I absolutely love that. If Air Bud has no other legacy, it feels like the term Air Bud rule, which is technically an oxymoron, but you know what I mean. Like the idea that like anything can happen just by nature of it not being disallowed. Yeah. I love how that's just become like the go-to joke way of referring to that, just calling it Air Bud rules.
It's so funny too because it's like this is a high school basketball team. By that logic, you could have like Michael Jordan be coming in and playing for the team because it doesn't say that like Michael Jordan can't be on the team. You know, it's like at the very least you would think that they require the player to be in high school. Which would, you know, maybe
I guess there would be some kind of I just tried to come up with two possible mitigations, but I realized that both of them would be canceled out by the fact that they let a dog play. First, I was like, well, there'd have to be. At first, I thought, well, that maybe there is some rule about it being a student, but then no, because then that would disallow Air Bud.
Exactly.
And then I thought maybe there's an age limit, but no, that would disallow Air Bud. Yeah. Also, yeah, the dog's name is Buddy, but everyone's going to call this. Oh yeah,
no, I will call him Air Bud. His name is Buddy, but he will be Air Bud to me. Yeah, so
I guess you would have to say that you would have to get around that by saying that no professional basketball player would agree to play on a high school team for any length of time whatsoever. But Air Bud will.
It's just so bizarre. And then of course there's like a big courtroom scene where they're fighting.
Not the only courtroom scene we'll be talking about.
And the other one is a little bit crazier, but this one they're fighting for custody over Air Bud, and the judge is just like he doesn't care. He just doesn't care at all. And then they decide that the way that they're gonna figure out who Air Bud goes home to, they're just going to let him decide. So they have, one of those classic moments where the kid is on one side and Michael Jeter's character's on the other side, and they're calling to Air Bud. And then the funny thing was that it was like it was supposed to be like suspenseful, as if there would be any kind of hesitation. Like Air Bud obviously loves this kid, and Michael Jeter's character is abusive to him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so why would there even be a hesitation there? Why would they draw it out into some like tense moment, as if there would be any universe in which Air Bud would be like, you know what? I want to go with the clown that beats me. That's what I want to do. They did try to like, have Michael Jeter like trick Air Bud by like pulling out a newspaper, because I guess he likes to bury and chew up newspapers, but it's like,
yeah, that's a whole recurring element when he's with
Yeah, but the funny thing is the only reason all that exists is for that final scene. When
exactly.
when it would have made a lot more sense if he had like dog treats in his pocket and just pulled one of those out instead of a newspaper. As like, did he bring that newspaper from home? Like, did he have it in his clown suit? Like, and also like, why was he why did he put on his clown makeup and stuff to go to court? Like, that's inappropriate.
You should not be dressed as a clown in court.
It's completely inappropriate. So anyway,
Air Bud, of course, launched an extensive franchise. The Air Bud cinematic universe begins with 5 movies. Air Bud, Air Bud Golden Receiver, American football.
Mm-hmm.
Air Bud World Pup, soccer. Air Bud 7th Inning Fetch, baseball. Air Bud Spikes Back. And I do love on this Wikipedia article just how increasingly terse the descriptions get. So by the time you get to Air Bud Spikes Back, it just says, Buddy tackles volleyball.
They're just like, all right, volleyball.
And I guess by Air Bud Spikes Back, Buddy has had puppies. So Buddy is then taken out of the equation. Buddy has puppies with a dog named Molly, as I'm reading here, but those puppies begin the Air Buddies franchise, which consists of Air Buddies, Snow Buddies, Space Buddies, Santa Buddies, and Santa Buddies spins off into another series of films, and gets 2 sequels: The Search for Santa Paws and Santa Paws 2. The Santa Pups. All the while the Air Buddies series continues with Spooky Buddies, Treasure Buddies, and Super Buddies. And that's the end of the Air Bud cinematic universe.
Unless you want to go further and talk about there's Pup Star World Tour, there's Puppy Star Christmas, Pup Star 2, Better Together, there's Monkey.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
There's Monkey Up. Did you you mentioned Treasure Buddies, right?
Yes.
And Super Buddies. There's also Russell Madness. So like, if you go to airbud.com, which is the official website of Airbud Entertainment,
as we all do,
you will see their portfolio, which includes a slew of animal related movies. It looks like they're like a full-on like studio now.
Air Bud sells digital collector cards,
NFTs. Let's be honest. Let's call them what they are.
Yeah,
NFTs.
I just love the euphemism to not call it an NFT because that term is just so obviously unserious at this point.
It's so toxic.
Digital collector cards. So if you want to get an Air Bud NFT, you can do that. Or alternately, you could do literally anything else.
Yeah, or you could just light your money on fire.
Yes,
and it would give you the same.
I'm also reading here that it appears that that the original Air Bud dog was featured on America's Funniest Home Videos first, which preceded the films. So this is all part of the America's Funniest Home Videos franchise.
Unfortunately, it looks like the original Air Bud passed away in 1998, but at least he got to see the original movie.
Yeah, I guess he played the dog in the original movie.
Oh, did he?
It looks so.
I did see where it said it was Buddy. Or Bud, I mean.
Yeah. Good. Is the Air Bud as himself.
Yeah, it says that the guy, Kevin DeSico, he found a stray golden retriever, named him Buddy. Then he brought him to his home in San Diego, where he trained him in the sports of basketball, baseball, football, soccer, and hockey. But Buddy's most eagerly awaited sport was basketball, and he was touted as the Michael Jordan of dogs.
I feel like this story has gotten embellished with time.
That's coming from the Airbud wiki. So
excuse me.
I think that that's 100% true, and we should just assume that that is 100% true.
I love that this is part of the legacy of America's Funniest Home Videos, a show that's still on television, even though there's really, on a cultural level, no need for it. But obviously, ABC is going to keep making it until the end of time because it basically gets a consistent, like, low but sustainable number of viewers, and also all the content is viewer submitted, so it costs them like $10 to make.
Yep.
So they're always going to do it because it's just like basically a free space 1 hour of television for them.
Yeah. Yeah, America's Funniest Videos is never going to go away.
No, it's almost astonishing, like, just how perfect it is as a format for, like, network primetime television. If anything, it's better for broadcast television now, just now that there's just such a problem of what you do about it.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I bet it will go away at some point, because I would imagine that the demographic for that show now is it's older people, like much older people who don't like see viral videos and stuff on the internet, because I feel like the internet instantly made America's Funniest Videos like irrelevant.
You think that I'm looking at the average viewer figures over time, and it doesn't even collapse. You'd think it would sometime in the 2000s, but it just slowly dwindles from about 10 million in 2002 to 5 million now, but it's plateaued. Like, it just got down to 5 million about 8 years ago and then just got stuck there. It's like stable now. I don't know. I have no idea how the show how the show's viewership model works, but it seems to be working.
I'm gonna say it's boomers. I'm just gonna go out there and say that I think it's boomers.
I know. I obviously is, but apparently they found a core number of them that'll just keep coming back.
I was just reminded of a scene in Air Bud when they first meet Air Bud, and he's got this like clown costume on, but the whole thing is Michael Jeter is wants to get rid of him, take him to the pound, because he's not performing his duties as a clown good enough, I guess. Even though I'd say he did pretty good, but his dog carrier, he's in like a crate, and it falls off the back of a truck, and it's laying in the middle of the road, and the mom like smashes into it, but then she just drives off. Like, why would you hit an animal crate and then like just be like, oh, okay, everybody okay in the car? All right, let's just leave. It's just so weird. Like, if I hit an animal crate, I would check it. You know, I would see, I would at least move it off the side of the road and make sure that the animal is okay. It's just so weird. Inappropriate. There's just the people in these movies are not good to their animals. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the big one here. Maybe the most 90s movie ever. It's up there. I think that this movie encapsulates the 90s in such an amazing way, and
it did it in 1991.
Yeah, exactly. It came out in 91. So in a lot of ways, I mean, this movie was a big time trendsetter here. We're talking about Bingo.
Bingo.
This is directed by Matthew Robbins. I have a synopsis here. Runaway circus dog befriends a young boy who has trouble fitting in with his friends. Okay. So this one is essentially a combination of all three of the other movies that we just spoke about.
Yes.
It, like, to a T. It is an adventure story where Bingo is trying to get back to his family. It's a Beethoven type story where he like causes all kinds of of a ruckus.
Has to escape dog napping.
Yep, has to escape dog napping. And he was a circus dog, so there's that connection to Air Bud as well. And he's also a very talented dog.
And it also all culminates with a sporting event.
Yep, and there's an epic courtroom scene in it as well. So, I mean, the connections between Bingo and these three other movies are so numerous.
If you think about it, Bingo came out in 1991, and they didn't need to make another movie for the rest of the 90s.
No.
It just summed up everything that the decade was about to be about, which is a feeling that it's completely lost in time, and you do and you like it, but you also have no idea how anyone thought that this was a good idea.
This movie's completely bonkers.
Yes.
I do like how on the poster, which the poster in and of itself is incredibly 90s.
This is one of the best posters.
How they say that Bingo is the canine Macaulay Culkin. It's incredible.
What was happening with film criticism in the 90s that people were just writing stuff like that?
I have no idea.
That's the Washington Post.
Yep.
That's the newspaper that broke the Watergate scandal.
He's every family's best friend. I love that font too, the Bingo font. Oh my god! In the background, give me a break when he's got the red shades on
with the palm trees. Even though that's not anywhere this movie's set.
Nope. It's an amazing poster. Like it just does such a great job of encapsulating what's to come for the decade.
I need everyone listening to look up the poster for Bingo right now. You need to see this, and also once you see it, you know exactly what it's like to watch this movie.
Yeah. It is so chock full of 90s tude. It is brimming with 90s tude. It's like, it has so much 90s tude in it that as I was watching it, I was like, how is this even a PG movie for kids? Like, this is crazy.
I also want to give credit to the letterboxed poster for Bingo, which is kind of similar, but also wilder because it doubles down on the idea that it's set somewhere warm with a beach with palm trees.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Nope.
It's set in Denver and Green Bay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole premise here is that Bingo is a circus dog. His owners in the circus try to kill him, and he escapes, and he ends up meeting up with this kid named Chucky. He saves his life. He saves Chucky's life because Chucky falls into a very small creek, really, and Bingo drags him out of it. And from that point on, they become best friends, and they avoid getting eaten by a bear, and like he's feeding him, and like they're just best friends. But like Beethoven, like pretty much all these movies, the family, the parents, the evil parents don't want them to have a dog, so he has to kind of like sneak Bingo around. And
I want to briefly point out that the mother is played by Cindy Williams, who just died a couple weeks ago from when we're recording, and it's just a complete coincidence that she's in this movie because we settled on this lineup quite a while ago.
Oh yeah. So when Bingo was in the circus, first of all, like one of his characteristics is he likes to eat makeup. I guess that's like one of his things that he likes to do is eat makeup. And then the other thing is like, so one of the dogs so the reason that they kick him out of the circus is that one of the dogs gets injured, and they have Bingo substitute and do this like Ring of Fire thing where you jump through a ring of fire. Now, I don't know why they would they didn't do any kind of rehearsals or anything. So when it comes time for Bingo to jump through the fire, he doesn't do it because he's scared. And I like how the woman goes, something about that fire scared him. And I'm like, yeah, the fire scared him. There doesn't need to be any kind of backstory.
They gave a backstory that was completely unnecessary.
And that's the thing, is they did give him a backstory, and it was horrific. He was in I don't know if it was like a pet store or like a kennel or something, and it was on fire. And his mother was there and died in the fire along with many other dogs.
This scene goes on for some time.
And it's horrific.
It goes on in some detail. I want you to think about that, how that scene is in the movie while looking at the poster.
Yeah. It is horrific. And then like they show the scene with him laying at his mother's like grave. But
keep looking at the poster while you think about this.
Which, by the way, I don't know who his mother was, but in this pet cemetery, they have not only a giant statue of his mother, but it's in a fountain. Like they build a fountain for his mother.
It's like a mausoleum.
Yeah, I don't know who his mom was, but she was somebody. She was somebody big.
Very important dog.
So yeah, that's Bingo's origin. Just horrific.
So, do you think that should Bingo be part of the Nepo baby discourse?
Well, maybe. I like, again, we didn't see too much about his mom, but she was somebody. So yeah, maybe, really? maybe he should be part of the conversation.
Anyway, this is things that happen in the first 10 minutes of Bingo.
Yeah, that's the beginning.
Bingo's mother dies in a fire, and Bingo visits her grave, and keep looking at that poster. So the kid is like hanging out with Bingo and stuff, and he's keeping him a secret for the most part. But then, like, Bingo's getting into trouble. You know, he's eating stuff, he's chewing stuff up, whatever, and the older brother, the mom, and the dad, they all figure out that he's hiding a dog. And the dad, played by David Rashi, I think that's how you say
it. He plays a kicker for the Broncos at the beginning, and then he gets traded to Green Bay. And one of the funny lines that he says at the beginning is he goes, "I hate animals," and he knows it. And it's like, what? You hate animals? All right. Like, that's a really broad statement to just say you hate animals.
Another terrific piece of surreal detail is that they emphasize who the father is playing for at the moment by having every flat surface in the house covered with a piece of memorabilia for that team. And
the other thing is he's a kicker, as I think I mentioned that. And they have like a science, like a doctor's office schematic of a foot in their bathroom, hanging like a poster hanging on the wall.
Is that in case he forgets what he's supposed to do? I have no idea why there's just so much.
I don't know.
It's such a bizarre production design choice, because while they're in Denver, presumably he did not need to be reminded what part of his body he's kicking with.
Also,
presumably he didn't need to be reminded what team he's playing for either.
Like, imagine like whatever, like your job, like let's say you work at McDonald's and you literally decorate everything in your house with like the golden arches. Like,
if you're like a McDonald's fry cook, you're not walking into your house and everything has the golden arches on it, and you don't have like a a diagram of like the spatula in your bathroom or something.
It's just so yeah.
And because you're gonna get, since he's clearly was going to get traded, and it's something that happened quite frequently considering the dialogue in the movie, why would you make it so much more difficult than having to redecorate every house you go to like this?
It's just so bizarre. And that so he gets traded, and the next day they leave without Bingo. And like the dad gets this like sick enjoyment out of leaving the dog too, which is kind of messed up. Like Bingo starts chasing the car, and like he speeds up. And he's like, "See you later, dog." So what the kid does, kind of smartly, even though completely illogical, as they're driving to Green Bay, he, like every couple of miles, he has to stop and he pees on an item so that Bingo can use the pee smell to follow them. And along the way, it turns into sort of like a road trip movie of sorts, where Bingo is like encountering these colorful characters along the way and having this adventure, sort of like Joe Dirt. It's like Joe Dirt, but with a dog. The one scene after they start the road trip is they go to this like little diner, this like hole in the wall diner. And it turns out that this diner is serving dog meat, that they're killing dogs and turning them into hot dogs. They're grinding them up. And that's a scene in this movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. And then Bingo ends up he ends up in this like kidnapping situation where there's this family that are like living in this, like, they're going RVing, I guess, and then they get held hostage by these two criminals, and Bingo helps by like calling the cops and stuff. But then like during the trial, they put Bingo on the stand and have Bingo testify, and it goes horribly wrong, and then Bingo ends up in prison. I'm not making it up.
Bingo is on the stand and goes to prison.
Not making it up.
Nope.
He ends up going to prison, and then he and his cellmate break out. Cellmate played by Wayne Robson. They end up breaking out of prison, and then he gets back on the road to find him, and then then the two criminals who Bingo puts away somehow get out. I don't know how, because they were like in prison. They weren't in like jail. They were actually in prison, and yet somehow they got released, or I don't know. Maybe they broke out too. Maybe it's just like no security in this prison, but somehow they get out, kidnap the kid.
The kind of prison they send to like business executives who crash the entire economy.
Yeah. They end up
just no security.
They end up kidnapping the kid, because at first they were just hunting down Bingo. Like their sole purpose was to kill this dog. That's what they were looking to do. They just wanted to kill the dog. But then once they ended up discovering that the kid's dad was a football player, they were like, okay, well, we can kidnap the kid and then hold him for ransom. And the ransom is that we're going to have the dad fix the game so that we can place a bet and win. And then on top of that, stay with me. On top of that, they place a bomb in the room with the kid. And by the way, they tie up Bingo too. They catch Bingo and tie him up. And then they I guess their plan, after they got the money from the game, they're just going to blow up this building and blow up the kid and the dog.
Yeah.
It is bonkers, man.
The building does blow. The bomb does go off too.
It does.
I mean, yeah. I mean, everyone's fine, obviously, but
it is wild, man. This movie is crazy.
This is, I think, a movie that everyone should see.
Oh yeah. I loved this movie as a kid. I loved it. I think it was the whole like road trip adventure aspect of it that I really loved. And it's like the comedy in here is definitely on the it's a little bit more crude than something you'd get out of like a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit edgier. And I would say that it certainly appeals more towards like young boys, you know, 10-year-old boys. I was very young when this movie came out.
I think it takes on a new level of appreciation if you revisit it at an older age, though. I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it, so I'm still processing all of it.
Yeah, I really didn't, because I mean, this is probably the first time I've seen it since, I don't know, 92 maybe. So I forgot most of the like details. I remembered the whole, you know, road trip and Bingo trying to find his family. Like I remembered all that stuff, but it was like it's the smaller things that are just so wild about this. Like at the end when Bingo ends up in the hospital, and for some reason he's in a human hospital, and all of the people that he met along the way show up, including the two kidnappers who tried to blow them up. I guess they just allowed them to come into the hospital and make sure he's okay. And the cook who was killing the dogs and using them as meat.
For a movie that set in a world where the justice system will put a dog on trial and send that dog to prison, there don't seem to be any laws in this world.
No, this one more than any. Like, the other three movies were fairly grounded for the most part, aside from a few things here and there, especially with Air Bud at the end. But this one, like, out of the gate, man, it is... Like, they treat this dog like it's a human. I mean...
This is set in a different universe in a lot of ways.
Like, there's nothing grounded about this movie.
Yeah, it's like with the thing with... Yeah, you're right. With the thing with Air Bud is that if you took out the dog playing basketball, it's a pretty recognizable world. If you take out Bingo from Bingo, this world is still bonkers.
Yeah, exactly. It is like... I mean, it's just going at 11. You don't see kids movies like this anymore. You don't, like, that are going...
You don't see any movies like this
that anymore. Are just going completely nuts from the beginning, where they throw everything at the wall in this one. But it's a must see. It's a must see.
I want to add, I know I keep talking about the poster, but I'm going to keep talking about the poster one more time. I have the Letterboxd poster. Actually, that's what I've been had on my screen the entire time we've been talking about Bingo, is the Letterboxd poster for Bingo zoomed in. That's the one where it's not only the dog with the sunglasses and the reflection of palm trees, but the one where there's a beach image behind him. And it's one, I like it zooming in on it. It's just a stock photo of people like on a boardwalk at the beach.
Yeah, it's like Venice Beach or something, and then in the reflection, it's like Rodeo Drive or something like that.
Yeah, I just like all like this is just a stock photo of people in the background.
Also, the font on the Letterboxd one is different
and worse. I think
it's much worse. Yeah,
you've got if someone could take the completely unrelated stock image of the Letterboxd poster, but replace the logo with the font from the Wikipedia, like the theatrical release poster with the billing block at the bottom, it would be I think it'd be a poster that many of us would wish to put up. I'm not a big poster put up person, but I'd make an exception for that.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to know why Mondo hasn't gotten their hands on Bingo and released a special edition Mondo poster of Bingo. They should have. Yeah.
It's also just the specific image they have of this dog posing with the sunglasses. Just the greatest picture.
It really is. I really... Well, see, also, I had a dog as a kid that looked a lot like Bingo. like a lot like Bingo. So there was definitely like a personal connection I had to this movie. Also,
this is Bingo, truly a rare example of a movie that feels that it gives one the same feeling watching it that they might have watching one of the movies we talk about on our Christmas episodes.
And again, we already discussed this, but I feel like it's worth reiterating. This came out in 1991.
Yes.
I feel like it was just such a good precursor of what the decade would bring as far as like family movies, kids movies, all that. Because it doesn't feel like it's, a carryover from the 80s. Like this feels like 100% 90s through and through.
One of the first true 90s movies.
Really? Yeah. I think that there have been a couple other ones, like really early 90s movies that we've discussed that we said something similar, but I think this can be included in that group where maybe it was influential. I don't know. I don't know if it was successful enough.
I mean, it's just, that's why we talked about it last, because the future dog family movies of this decade could only incorporate one of the elements that Bingo just has coexisting the entire time.
And it just does it so effortlessly, too. It's just like, hey, you know what? Just throw in a trial. Here we go. Road trip adventure. There we go. We got it.
You must see this movie. You owe it to yourself, listeners, to watch Bingo.
Absolutely. All right, with that, I think we can close it out for this month. I had a really good time revisiting these movies. I mean, I wouldn't say that any of them are good per se, but they were certainly fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your 90s memories to 90s@filmpulse.net or by DMing us on Facebook or Twitter at 90spod. If you get a moment, consider reviewing us on iTunes. That'd be great. Until next month, for Ken Bakley, my name's Adam Patterson. This has been Saved by the 90s.
Bye, everyone.